What's up, guys? I'm gonna show you guys how to properly put a reed onto your clarinet mouthpiece. In my last video, I showed you guys how to assemble the clarinet. So while you're assembling the clarinet, usually the routine is to be soaking your reed. This is a reed, kind of like this. Doesn't taste all that great, but it's really important to keep your reed clean by always putting it away and putting it back into either its case or a reed guard if you have one. So while you are assembling the rest of your clarinet, you're going to put this in your mouth, let it soak like so. And it's really important that you see how the reed is really thin right there at the tip. It's really important that we don't bite the reed with our teeth. We don't want it to crack. Very easy for beginning students especially to chip the reeds, because they chip pretty easily. So we really just want to place it on our tongue like that and kind of soak it. We want to make sure that this part, especially like the thin part, is nice and wet so we get a sound from the clarinet. So while I'm soaking this, I guess I can't really talk with the reed in my mouth. So I'm going to show, this is the mouthpiece, and this is what a normal student ligature would look like. It's silver like so. I'm actually going to put this reed back in its case so I can speak properly. All right. So here is the mouthpiece. Here is the ligature. If you look at the ligature, you'll see that there is a bigger portion, kind of like the fatter part, kind of like the barrel. We want that fatter portion to go onto the mouthpiece like so. So from the top, I'm going to kind of drop it down, and we want to make sure that the screws are on the right hand side of the mouthpiece. If you're looking at it like this, flat, the flat part is facing you. We want to make sure that the screws are on the right hand side. Like in my last video, I said that there are some different ligatures that function differently, but in most cases, if your ligature looks like this, the silver one, the screws go on the right. And we want to make sure that the screws are kind of loose like so, so they're kind of, there's some give right there. It's not too tight because we want to make sure that the reed fits in there. So once your reed is nice and soaked, so there's two ways to do this. We can put the reed in from the bottom and kind of, I'm going to lift this ligature up a little so there's some space. I can slide it up. And we want to keep the reed and the mouthpiece flush. If you see the tip of the mouthpiece and the reed, we want it to be even. Okay, and we want to bring the ligature down. And once it's in the right spot, this is when you tighten the screws. And we don't want to over tighten because these screws are not that strong and they will break. And one thing to know about the screws, they are only threaded in on one side. So if the screws happen to fall out, you want to make sure that you put it back in the correct way. Otherwise, you might find that you'll keep turning it and nothing's happening. So you have to kind of check out which side it's threaded on. So there's that. You want to make sure that it's flush with the tip. So wrong way would be if you see the reed sticking up like this, you can kind of see the tip of the reed up there. We don't want that. And we don't want the reed to be way down here either. We won't get a sound. You want to make sure the reed is nice and flush and matches the tip of the mouthpiece like so. I always tell my students that that little space between the mouthpiece and the reed, if you can see it, that's where the vibration comes from, and that's actually where the sound gets produced from. So it's really important that we have that little space there. That space cannot be created if you don't have the reed and the mouthpiece flush like this together. So the other way to put the reed on, this is kind of teacher preference, I guess. You have your reed, let's say it's nice and soaked. It's really important this back portion is really soaked, because it does help keep the reed in place. So we're going to attach the reed to the mouthpiece, and I'm gonna have my thumb down here to keep it in place. And once I think I have it kind of in place, then I drop the ligature onto the mouthpiece like that and bring it down, and then tighten it. Okay, we want to tighten it just enough that the reed is not going to go anywhere. Don't need to excessively tighten the ligature. Okay, and if you can kind of see the spacing where the ligature is, we want it pretty far down, and you should only see a little bit of the bottom part of that reed. Okay, so mostly it's like that. Okay, and again, loosen it just enough that the ligature becomes kind of free. You can take it off, take the reed off, and again, most important part, put it back in its case. Okay, we want our reeds to last a long time, and they don't last very long if you don't take care of them. So you want to be just super careful when you're soaking your reeds and putting your reeds on that we don't touch the tip of the reed. So the tip of the reed is that really thin piece right there. Beginning students go through quite a few reeds their first year, mostly because they don't know where they should be holding it. You always hold your reed at the bottom like so, and again, don't bite the reed, and be careful with it. When you're putting it in, be careful with it that you put it in from the bottom of the reed and then carefully slide it in. This way it'll last much longer. And that is how you put the reed into the mouthpiece.